You know how sometimes things kind of snowball? You may pick something up as a hobby, and a year later it's snowballed into something you couldn't even imagine, for better, or in some cases for worse. I was invited to 343 Industries last week for the launch event of Halo Wars 2, and before we begin my talk on what I saw in the lair of Halo developers, I just wanted to say thank you. All of you. Everybody, all the people who watch my videos, subscribe, really support and share them around. This opportunity honestly would not have been possible if it weren't for all of you. So from the bottom of my heart, guys, thank you so much. And without further ado, let's get into what I saw. Wednesday afternoon last week, I boarded a flight to Seattle, Washington and arrived at my hotel around 10 p.m. that night. The next morning, I woke up, had some coffee, hung out in my hotel room until it was time for me to go meet up with Halo YouTubers such as the Actman and Favin. Once our little group was together, we went to the headquarters of 343 Industries about an hour or so before the launch party officially started. In the lobby of 343 Industries, they were handing out guest passes, and I had a little bit of trouble finding mine. And soon I found out that Grim Brother 1 had actually had my guest pass under the name Late Night Gaming, which shockingly is not actually my real name. Once I had my guest pass, I made sure to get a couple of shots of the massive Atriox puppet that was used in those live-action Halo Wars 2 commercials that they had just placed chilling in the lobby. After a couple of shots, I was allowed through the doors and into the famed Halo Museum, which was overwhelming in every sense of the word. Life-sized Noble Team statues, elites, ODSTs, as well as toys, games, books, concept art, and everything from nearly 2 decades of Halo were all here in this room. You could start in the Halo CE section and make your way all the way to the Halo 5 section. It was incredible to see the entire history of the Halo series here physically in this room in chronological order. As I looked around the Halo Museum, I saw 343 employees rushing around, obviously preparing for the party or something that honestly didn't concern me, and Halo music played in the background via the speakers. As I took pictures of the Halo Museum, I ran into one of the Halo series' main writers, Kenneth Peters, and as a fan of Halo's expanded lore, despite the series' honestly rough last couple of years, he and I got into the nerdiest conversation about Halo. He and I were so deep in our discussion on Halo's story and lore that Actman and Favin left to go flirt with girls and check out the Halo Museum or whatever, which honestly I don't blame them. Kenneth was incredibly chill, and while at first I felt completely intimidated by being in the presence of someone who works on my favorite game series, he made me feel welcome. He also showed me around the Halo Museum and pointed out things I would have never noticed about Halo's history. Like, for example, did you know that the Halo CE box art, the original print for it, actually has Master Chief's thumb clipping into the assault rifle? This was actually fixed later. Kenneth and I walked over to the Halo 2 section of the Halo Museum, and he said, "This is Jeremy Cook, lead art director of Halo Wars 2. And it was also really refreshing to hear that Jeremy Cook himself actually agreed with a lot of my comments in my videos on Halo's new art style and where I felt personally they made a few errors. I was in heaven. This was incredible. I couldn't believe I was actually here at 343 and talking to these people. We joked about the cave troll elites that are in Halo 4 and 5. We talked about the overuse of Forerunner floaty bits. But what really interested me actually was when Jeremy began talking a lot about some of the things that went into Halo Wars 2's art style. He said primarily what they tried to do is capture the silhouette of a lot of Halo's timeless designs. He used the Scarab as an example. He said, from a distance, you may not even recognize it as a banished scarab, it's just going to look like a scarab, but as it gets closer, you start to see like the banished stuff all over it, and it becomes clear this is something incredibly different. And that's what they tried to do with a lot of Halo Wars 2's designs. They wanted to maintain the silhouette of Halo's iconic designs, while also innovating within this silhouette. As Jeremy talked a lot about some of his philosophies going into the Halo Wars 2 art style, I just sat there internally thinking, like, wow, I, as well as many in the Halo community, used to play Halo 5 and just assume that 343 were being stubborn and that this was their Halo, and a lot of these things wouldn't be changing at all. But this wasn't the reality of it. Listening to Jeremy just talk about some of the things that he's excited about with the future of the series, it made me realize that internally, 343, they have been listening a lot more than many of us realize. And while we obviously can't see it because, well, the Halo 6 isn't out yet, internally they've heard many of our cries for Halo to slow itself down and remember why people love the series. We talked a lot about the missteps with Halo in terms of the story and the art, and it was just so refreshing to hear them acknowledge many of those missteps while being visibly excited about Halo's future based off of the things that they've learned from Halo 4 and 5. Another person I was actually surprised I was able to meet in real life was the Chief herself, Bonnie Ross. She was constantly joking, laughing, and enjoying herself as we had our chat. I was able to shake her hand, and she asked me how I felt about Halo Wars 2. I basically told her my opinions and views on the game, which are very positive, despite a few nagging issues. She told me about how Halo 4 and definitely Halo 5 were learning experiences for the studio on what the fans would like, and from some of the things she mentioned and talked about, I can honestly say I'm pretty excited about the future of the series. They're really listening. As the party began to wrap up, Grim Brother 1 asked if Actman Favin and I would wait for him next to a set of elevators while he ran something up to his office, which we just assumed must have been code word for him escaping out a window. While he was gone, something came up and sadly Actman and Favin had to leave, so here I was with Kenneth, a Halo speedrunner / Twitch streamer named Joker, and Oren of Podcast Evolved. Grim did actually eventually come back down. He and Kenneth happily signed a toy ghost I brought with myself and my copy of Halo 4, and we soon set out, not before saying goodbye to Bonnie Ross, who was on her way out as well. The day ended with the 5 of us sitting at a table in some courtyard outside of Macy's, and just talking about the Halo series, its highs, its lows, and many of the incredible things on the horizon. And finally, the incredible day ended with me getting a picture with Grim himself, who was the one responsible for me getting there. Guys, I spent an entire day talking to some of the brains behind the Halo series, and it was an incredibly humanizing experience. No, they are not these monsters who want Halo to burn. They are a group of unbelievably passionate people who are beginning to finally figure out what makes the Halo series tick after inheriting it from Bungie. While I obviously can't say everything that we talked about, a lot of things were put into perspective for me, and I can honestly say that, in my opinion, Halo has a much brighter future, and the dark days are definitely behind us. During the DICE Summit 2017 talks, Bonnie Ross herself announced some things going forward for the series, such as split screen being a mandatory staple that will never be left behind, like in Halo 5. We see in Halo Wars 2 that the old art style is returning the series to its proper look. Halo Wars 2's music shows that they are figuring out how to blend innovation while making melodies that the Halo fans will enjoy. Sketch had a very positive post yesterday on Waypoint that brought up how black undersuits are being accounted for, which may seem small, but if you've seen some of my videos on the flaws in Halo 5's armors, it will go a long way with fixing the look of the Spartans in Halo's multiplayer. I could go on and on and on, but ultimately 343 definitely went through quite an experience with Halo 4 and 5s, and they've stumbled along the way. They've made mistakes as well, but we'll be discussing Halo's future and Halo Wars 2's story in separate videos, that way they can get their own dedication, and ultimately, I hope you guys enjoyed my experience at 343 Industries.
I was able to speak for a long time with Jeremy Cook, the lead artist of Halo Wars 2, the art director actually, as he corrected me once. It was incredible to hear that he's actually seen some of my art style videos and he agrees with a lot of the stuff that I say in them. I'm here in this little town center square thing, I don't know what to call it. I hung out with Grim Brother 1, there's a car. That was absolutely incredible, by the way. I hung out with a lot of the writers. I was able to speak to Bonnie Ross I brought a toy ghost that actually got signed by some of the people at 343 here, and this has been an incredible day. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Before I go, guys, I wanted to give a special shout out to Master J2001 on Twitter. He's the one who actually did this incredible intro that you sometimes see me use, and I thought that credit where credit is due. He definitely deserved a shout out because his work on this intro has been nothing short of incredible. He was able to get this thing done very quickly, and ultimately, I'm incredibly impressed with the end result. In the description below is going to be a link to his Twitter account. I recommend you guys go follow him. He has been incredible.